This is Sunniva.
And this is Johannes.
And you are watching Board Gaming Ramblings.
And today we are taking a look at the first game in the Detective Signature series. This is Dig Deeper by Rob Daviau.
It plays from 1 to 5 players in 2 to 3 hours.
It does. So this is like a small box expansion for Detective. With just one case. This is the first standalone case released for Detective. So we had, or there have been a couple of free ones online that you can get, or there's been a couple of one shots there, but not actually released in a box like this. So we had Detective, the base game, which we really loved. If you haven't seen our review of that, go back and check that.
Love.
Amazing game, one of the best games I have ever played. And we heard about this in January at PortalCon. And we were really excited, and now we own it, or own it,
we
own it, and we are going to talk about it. So of course this is going to be like a different review, as all of these kind of reviews of story-based one-shot games are, because we can't really talk about a lot of the things happening in the game.
Nope.
But what we will do is talk a bit about the new mechanisms, because they are talked about in the rulebook. So if you don't want to know things that are in the rulebook and what we think about them, don't watch the review.
Here.
And of course, if you don't want to know anything, I'm just saying this at the beginning of all these kind of reviews, don't watch the video if you don't want to know any single thing. We're not going to talk about specifics, but we are going to tell you what we think. We are going to tell you what we think about the new mechanisms. If we didn't do that, it wouldn't be a review. It would just basically be us saying like this.
This is a game. It's available. Go get it. Yes.
That's a bad review. So, Dig Deeper. This is interesting because it is made by Rob Daviau. And he has made some interesting games, especially he's known for the Legacy stuff. He was the guy who made Legacy. Risk Legacy and Pandemic Legacy, of course, and with Matt Leacock. And then he made Seafall, which we haven't played. We actually own it. I really want to play it, even though I've heard very mixed things about it. But he's the guy who invented Legacy. So it's obvious to make him make a story game, because he is a story game man. So first of all, if you haven't played Detective, very, very quickly, it is a game about being detectives somewhere in the world, somewhere in time, depending on what kind of game or what game you're playing. The first one is kind of in the future, or in the near future, where they have these high-tech things that help you solve crimes. And basically the game is very simply laid out. There are some more nuances to the rules, but basically you read an introduction, and that gives you some leads. Those leads are cards, and then you pick one of those leads that you want to follow, you look at that card, you read the card. And that card might give you options to flip the card, to dig deeper, which is the name of this one, and to use some you probably need to use something, some skill or something, to flip the card over to get more information, and it always almost gives you more leads. So you'll just give this huge list of leads, and you have to choose which one to pick, because all the things you do take time, and you only usually have 3 days, 4 days, 5 days to solve the different cases. So that is basically the core elements of the game. You read a card and you choose where you want to go next. So it's a game where you really have to, there's a lot of information. You have to, when we played this and when we played the original, we had a flip over and we write names and we do it like you do on the crime show, with lines, and hey, this guy has something to do with her, and he is dead, and he is over here, and who is this person, and all of that. So that makes it very, very cool and very. And when you play the base game, you need to do that, but because there's a lot of overarching thing. But this is a one-shot game, so that's kind of also the way the basic detective things. This is a one-shot game. There are two. This is set in the 70s. Yes, it's in the 70s. In Boston, I think.
America.
You don't remember?
I don't know.
Yeah, Boston. You are in Boston in the 1970s. So I'm not going to talk anything about the case, of course, because that is spoilers. But there are two big new mechanisms. Because you are in the 70s, there's no internet. In the base game, you can search the internet for anything you like. In this game, you're not allowed to use your phones. So it kind of changes up how the game is, because you can't search for things and see oh, how does this work? How does this work? So in this game, if you need information on somebody, you can't go online, but you can call the library.
The library. I really like this mechanic. I don't like it because it makes it a hassle to actually Google things that
Yes.
you would really easily just have. So you call in the library, and then you have to wait for like
3 hours.
3 hours, and then you have to go physically to the place where the
Library is a very hard word.
library guy is, and you have to pick it up.
And also the library is only open in the day, so if you end up calling too late or working overtime, you can't go to the library and pick it up. So you have to wait till the next day before you can get your information.
Yes.
So that is a very interesting mechanism. I like it. It makes the game different. It makes you really think about like when you can go online. It doesn't really matter because you can just go online and check everything. But here when you get new topics, because you get new topics, like this is a new library topic, and you will be like, oh, do we need to ask for this?
Yeah.
You can ask for more things at once. So if you have like a pile, then you can just add on something. It doesn't really matter. But if you get a new one and like, oh, we can ask for this now because it doesn't take time to call the library. But then you have to wait 3 hours and like, oh, and in those 3 hours, you can't call for something else. So if you get then a new topic, they're like, oh, that is so much more important, then you cannot do that. And that's very interesting because it's like a new way to manage time.
And they've also done a twist on the interview part of the game. Now you can only interview somebody once, and you have I think 3 questions.
Yeah, basically in the original, just to take that, in the original you just get a transcript of a interrogation.
Yeah.
And you have to read that and try to find out where the people are truthful or are lying. In this one, as you said, you're actually interviewing them. And there's no spoilers, this is in the rule book. So you have to choose someone you want to interview, and then the interview will end either after you get 3 answers or you get 3 I don't know. So you actually have to write the word you're asking them. And so it's you have to think about what can we ask this person, and you ask and it's like, oh no, they didn't know anything about that, or they knew this and that changes everything.
Yeah.
And I love that. It really changes up how it feels.
And it's really interesting also if you get 2 I don't knows, then you're like, oh, can we ask about that? No, do the person know anything? And you have to try to piece things together and ask the final question. I hope that you get actually something that you can use.
Yes.
I really like that mechanism.
And yeah, it's not a huge thing, but it changes up. If you have played everything else, it changes up kind of how you have to think about it and who to interview. It only takes 1 hour, so it's not that huge of a deal. But you only have 4 days, and the time is going very, very, very fast.
Yes.
So those are the 2 kind of main mechanism changes, which I like both of them. I think they add to this feeling, add to the theme, adds to basically the fun of the game.
Yeah.
And makes it different, which is cool. When they first gonna have a different designer, it should be different. It shouldn't be the same, but just with another story. Or it could be that as well if it's a great written story. So let's talk a bit about do you like it, because it's hard to do a review of this because I'm trying to think what can I say. So let's just talk about what did you think about this expansion?
We played the core game, just the 2 of us, and in this game we actually had 2 friends over and played it with 4, and we used about 3 hours
and 2 minutes.
And I think this was fun with 4 players, and I think the story, I was blown away by the original. I really love this. This wasn't as I have high expectations for this game as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this wasn't as cool and mind-blowing as the first original game was to me. But then again, this is lacking the overarching plot element that did a huge amount of deal, made a huge deal for us, and I really am just happy that there's coming more detective stuff because everything is just super fun. Yeah,
I am I think that it was very fun to introduce 2 other players, but I'm going to stand my ground that I think those kind of games are best with just the 2 of us.
Yes.
Not because we don't like the other guys, but just because it's the way I work. the way my brain works, because I can think in a different way, I can relax in a different way. It doesn't really matter. If you take a break, we can take a break. We don't have to play the whole thing in once. But I really like this. Like I said, I think this is as solid as the standalone cases in the base game. Like, not all of those were amazing, but that was amazing because of the overarching story. So this can't have that, but as a standalone, I really like this. It is a good story. It's interesting. It makes you think, which is the most important thing. And I loved it. I didn't like it as much as the original, like you, but still, very, very good expansion. And I cannot wait to get Detective Season 1 when that comes out. And also, we had a connection from Portal Games. So it's kind of like an evolution of this style of Detective.
Excited. Yes.
So I don't think there's a lot more we can say. Like, I highly recommend this if you haven't, or if you have played Detective. One thing, like the only negative thing that I want to say is that I think this should have been sold as a standalone game. Because this, you need to have the base game. Like, you don't really need to, like, the counters is the only thing you use. But I think that it would have been even better for people to be able to just pick this off the shelf and play it, and then they would buy Detective. This is more for Portal. Like, why didn't you do that? Because that would have been great, because people could then buy this for maybe $20 and play it and have so much fun that they would go out and buy the other game and expansion.
That's true.
So I the only thing like would be a hassle would be to have the actual rulebook in here. The rulebook would be a bit bigger, but I think it would be manageable to do that, and I would love it if they did that. I think probably they have thought about it, and I'm just stupid, but that's my thought when I play this. Like, this could have been great if you could, and then I could also do this and I could lend it to somebody. And they can play it, and they'd be like, "Oh, that was amazing!" And they would then buy Detective, which is more sales. So
great game, and people need to play it.
Yeah, I just want
it's so good.
I want people to play it, so I think that would be a better thing to do. So maybe think about that in the future, if that is like economically a sound thing to do.
Yeah.
So that is the end. Do you want to do a rating?
I didn't think of that. A rating. I don't know, actually. I think I will rate it a 7 because it's just solid, but it's not something that I would choose to play again. I'm just kidding.
Replayability is super bad in this one.
I just think it's super solid. The original Detective is higher rated for me because, I don't know, it just was up there, amazing, and it's hard to compete with that.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna give it an 8. I think it's a solid scenario. I think you should get it. I think it would be even better if you could just pick it off the shelf and buy it as a standalone thing to get a taste of what Detective is. Of course, if you need a taste, you can go and print out the Taste of Honey or whatever it's called, the standalone thing. We haven't played that. But this is, no, it's not called that, but it's called something. It has honey on it.
Check it out yourself.
But it's very good. If you like Detective, you will like this. If you hate Detective, you're probably not going to like this. So, I'm going to give it an 8, so a 7 and 8. Yes. That is the end of the review.
It is.
Thank you so much for watching. I'm Johannes.
I'm Sunniva.
And you've been watching Board Gaming Ramblings, and bye-bye.